Welcome to Ever Beyond,
broadcast through the Wolf Spirit Media Network.
Be prepared to leave your belief systems behind as we go beyond teachers, beyond gurus, beyond duality, ever beyond.
Please join us in the chat room at www.wolfspiritradio.com/listen. You're listening to Wolf Spirit Radio.
Yes, indeed. It is 30th of April, 2017, 11 p.m. UK time, and God knows what time in Hawaii, and somewhere in the Midwest, and everywhere on this spinning blue-green globe. Welcome. Thank you to everybody for hanging on. We've had some issues with our server, with our streaming server, and I think I've got it calmed down now. It was going a bit haywire in the last couple of hours, but hopefully everything should be nice and calm and stable for the next 2 hours, because I hope this is going to be a very, very special conversation. I'm pretty certain it will be. My current two guests are Michael Lee Hill and Sheldon Ray Bird. Both of them sounds great. It's like, oh, great jazz names. So, let's first of all, Michael, would you like to, now, the idea of, the show is about, 432, the tuning, I've been talking about this for years, right? So, and every so often I like to have a kind of roundup of what people are into and how they're working with it. And I've seen over the last couple of years, Michael, on your Facebook, I've been watching it, and you have been making some things, you've been saying some stuff, and you've been putting some great pictures and images on. And I've never actually heard you play, but the way you stand, you probably play really well. So, you got the right stance. Anyway, but beyond that, because, we're all into frequency here. We know about frequency healing through, our conversation with Shari Edwards. We've had, various conversations about 432 in the past, including the going all the way back to Pythagoras and the mathematical relationships of it. And there is also the intuitive, like when I played the frequencies to people, they say, oh, that feels a lot better than this or other. So, first of all, I'd like you guys to introduce yourself, and where did you come in with 432? Michael, please.
That was part of the communication from above, I would say. And I call them one of the most cosmic harmonious frequencies, because you start to realize that everything's made from sacred geometry, from the atom to the universe. So the question becomes, well, what frequencies create perfect geometry within this medium of light and sound that we're all part of? The whole 432 subject started to come through me because I was brought into the remote viewers group from the NSA, and one of the first questions I even asked them was, someone had just brought up the 432 subject and I didn't understand it. And one of the members of this group, which was called the LPG-C, he was a studio musician, and he was very well versed on the 432 subject. And I started learning from him. As a matter of fact, I remember him saying, I don't even know how you guys could keep your guitars in tune at 440. And I went, wow, that's odd. So I started looking into these alternate tunings, but what that means to humanity is still unfolding till this day. And it deals with how the 432 subject ties into the E equals MC squared equation. And it's fascinating that a crop circle in 2010 in Italy encoded in ASCII binary code E equals MC squared. The next year in the exact same location, a crop circle said it was encoded with ASCII binary code, and it said Ia Inki, and it had 432 embedded information in that crop circle. So what I'd like to talk about, especially with what we're getting into, is it's the two different parts of the equation that, physicists have said, E equals MC squared. Our whole physics is based on that right now. But where's the frequency component? Because if everything is particle and wave, that's only the particle part of the equation. It's right there, M equals mass. So when you find out 432 squared is the speed of light within 1% accuracy times mass equals energy, it's the only frequencies that run backwards and plug into the E equals MC squared equation. So I think that's very fantastic. And they've been guiding us into this knowledge forever, even from our initial time system keeping, in Samaria. Look into how many seconds is in 12 hours. There's 43,200. That's 432, But I'll stop there.
That is a great intro, Michael. Thank you. Because
right on.
The numbers prove reality. When the numbers all drop out and they're all like really nice and they're like, 432, 234, 432s. The palindrome
Absolutely.
runs backwards and it runs forwards. And as you say, all right, so I'll just expand a bit on what you just said. When people talk about E equals MC squared, it's because it's the kinetic energy of the particle that is moving, because it's spinning at the speed of light, which is c, right? And c is 432 squared, and then it's traveling forwards at the speed of light, so that's another 432 squared that multiplies that. So it's basically 432 times 432 times 432 times 42 times the mass of any particle gives its light energy. So that's how 432 and equals MC squared, the relationship of energy to matter is related to 432 and expands out from there. So there's got to be some kind of, that's a creation principle. Anyway, without kind of, would you like, because I want to bring Sheldon in as well, because,
yeah, for sure.
But, do you want to, I heard I heard the response building up there, so please. Michael, if you wanted to respond to that?
Oh, no, I just thought we were bringing Sheldon on.
Okay, Sheldon, how are you doing, mate?
Hey, doing pretty good. I hear an echo.
Yeah.
Wait.
So it's when I've got my mic up. So would you like to, first of all, introduce yourself and where you come in on this, and what were your, discoveries and feelings when you heard about 432 and how, oh, wow.
Okay. Well, hi, I'm Sheldon Bird. I'm here. So I grew up as a musician. I grew up with art, and, it's led me to a lot of cool, opportunities. I got to meet, people who started these things called Star Knowledge Conferences, and, I was able to speak at one of them, and, the first one I spoke at, that's where I met Michael, and then we started hanging out a bit after that, and then, we're really good friends, and we're really getting into this, music thing because, there's a lot of power in it. So, that's kind of how I stumbled into 432. I've heard, some things on the internet, and I kind of experimented with it, but, when I met Michael, I really, really played with it. I tuned everything to 432, and, it's been a while since I haven't used 432.
You know, it's interesting because Sheldon brought this brand new tuning to me. So, like, for the first time probably in the universe, it was this crazy tuning that Sheldon has in the 432 tuning. And, boy, does it sound nice, doesn't it?
All right, you got like a non-standard tuning as well.
Sheldon does. He showed it to me, and I've never even experienced anything like this. I said, did you learn in standard? And he said, no, I learned how to play guitar in this tuning. And now he's going backwards and learning how to play in normal standard tuning, but it's the most beautiful tuning. I don't even know what it's called, but I call it the Sheldon tuning.
Well, is this one of these magic things? So, Sheldon, who taught you this tuning?
Well, I just stumbled on it. We're talking about a guitar, standard tuning on the guitar. It's E, A, D, G, B, E, but I learned how to play in drop D. I learned some things. I used to play metal just by myself. I didn't join any bands, but so like I was tuning my guitar, and every note was off. It was down one note, every single one. So I tuned it to drop D, but when I got to the G, it was down one note. So it was like this major sounding. So it's D, A, D, F sharp, B, E. And that's the guitar tuning that I learned to play in. And it works really well when your A is tuned to 432 because it just feels nice. Like you can just strum it without playing anything for like an hour.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
So that sounds so it's sort of like an open D kind of thing. Interesting. So
yeah,
but it's open D down in four, which is already sort of nearly a half a step down. So your strings are going to be vibrating a lot more. They're going to be swinging around quite a lot more because they're a lot slacker, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be nice to develop some 432 guitars, they're able to handle that,
Well, what's interesting is, I have, various guitars that are slightly old, not slightly old, but slightly crap. But, cause old guitars are good. There's no good guitar. But anyway, what it is, it's got a very bendy neck and, so heavy gauge string. I can't use heavy gauge strings. And I find that tuning it to 432 also gives it it relaxes the neck a little bit. And with all the instruments, they're a little less uptight. It's a strange thing. Do you find that, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, the cool thing is with all this, I'm glad you brought it up because I think I just encountered and just released an endorsement deal with I think is the pristine 432 guitar, and that is Emerald Guitars out of Ireland. They make acoustic instruments out of carbon composite. And because of this, anytime an acoustic instrument has been made from forever, there's all this bracing that happens inside the guitar. And it's just part of, the build. But if you think about it, any bracing cuts down on resonance of anything. Well, for the first time, these carbon composite guitars, this guy worked for NASA, I do believe, and started using this technology to make guitars. And it doesn't have any bracing. So the guitar resonates unlike anything I've ever experienced. And not only that, it's got a really beautiful, cutting-edge pickup system built into it where it has a microphone that's placed inside of the guitar, and then it has a piezo pickup under the bridge, so you can get both of those and mix to any detail, in between those two sounds that you want. But that tune to 432 is a match made in heaven, and I'm looking forward to creating this new album with Sheldon, which we'll get into, and I'm going to be doing 432 acoustic healing shows around town here as well.
All right.
So guitar is very important.
It is. I've got one of those. It's not an Ovation. It's the cheap knockoff. Not. It's the cheaper end of the Ovation with the round fiberglass back.
Right on.
And it's not an. I can't even remember what it is. Anyway, Epiphone. It's anyway. So
applause.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's an applause. That's right. You're right.
Yeah.
However, like you're saying, it's got no struts in it, and it is a big resonant chamber. And
Yeah.
I use this on the radio. Everybody hears it. I mean, it really. I've realized I've been listening to. I never listen to my recordings because I just make them all the time on the radio. But it's actually much. Even if it's the mic's away from my voice, the mic's sort of pointed to my voice. The guitar still comes right over the top of it. It's a really so. People, I think, if they hear what my guitar sounds like, they've been listening to the other shows, so they'll know that this will be the carbon. Oh, yeah, I'm just in love with the sound of the idea. Does it have a wooden top, or is it a carbon back and a wooden top?
Mine is totally carbon. The actual guitar, the body and the neck are one piece, which is interesting. But they do make a model where they'll put a beautiful, quilted maple or, flame maple top on it if that's what you want. But through mine, it looks really cool because it's a carbon composite, and you can actually see these like steel rods underneath this, red finish. It looks really beautiful. And plus, the sound hole is not in the front of the guitar. It kind of comes up and hits you right in the face, which is really cool because you can hear what you're doing.
I think I've seen it. It's got this funny little port. It's like a little vent, like a jet port that pokes the, like you say, pokes the sound right in your face.
Right when I go down to the those low notes, they really they resonate unlike anything I've ever heard. And holding the guitar and playing in 432, you can feel it in your body differently. And maybe that's we'll open healing centers where we just play our guitars on people.
Well, yeah, right. Okay. So this is where I wanted to, this is where, we're really talking, I'm not much of the rock star, but I do like the healing, I've been in my band, I have my share of bands, but it's the healing with music that is really, or the healing with frequency that is something that is really close to my heart and close to a lot of our audience. We get it. How healing can affect, how sound can affect healing. Why don't you tell people about those pendants that you've made? The ones with the Chladni figure on it.
It's, an art form that I learned, and they were originally called Pleiadian healing discs. And the idea was to put some kind of sacred geometry image in between quartz crystal glass, and then it was wrapped in copper. And the idea of like pyramid power or certain geometry having certain innate subtle energy would be brought into the crystal and not be able to leave because of the copper. And then when you actually physically touch it and hold it, you kind of connect the circuit, and you can work with chi, or prana, bring through healing energy, or it's a nice paperweight, whatever you want to do with it. But I had learned this art form, but I had been studying cymatics because of being a musician and looking into cymatics. For people that doesn't know, is a new scientific discovery of making the invisible visible. They pump water through a water medium, and they can record what happens on the surface. And so I hired these scientists to image my guitar, record it in my studio, I was meticulous to make sure my A note was at 432. And the result has become kind of historical for nerds like us. Nassim Harriman ended up putting it out through his Resonance project, and it's got over 3,000 likes and shares through his network of people. The image itself contains energy, and when the first time instead of using computer-generated sacred geometry in these crystal disc creations, I slid a cymatic image into it. it just hit me. It was like you could feel the energy coming off these things. Matter of fact, sometimes when I have them at shows, someone will ask me, well, hey, what do those do? I'll go, well, can I just show you? You know, it's a lot easier. And they'll say, yeah, and I'll just go on a circular motion, I don't know, about 2 inches away from their third eye. And one girl, she looked at me, opened her eyes, and she's just like, I'll take that. It's such a high frequency that comes off these discs. It blows any, like, lower frequency archonic stuff. It can't exist in those higher frequencies. And so it cleans chakra centers very well. It restructures water, which I had no clue it would do. So pretty much that's it. If anyone wants to look into what he's talking about, go to michaelleehill.net. And I've come up with a few devices of these crystal creations. They're beautiful pieces of art, but they are functional, subtle energy devices as well. And I also have it on a necklace. But I think it's perfect because Sheldon is one of the most wise and intelligent person on the subject of why 432 is healing to the human body and how it connects, and actually encoding music. And so what do you think, Sheldon, getting into, why is it healing?
Big question, but okay, I'll do my best. So like sometimes the first time you hear a song, let's say you're at a wedding and you hear a certain song, and then a year later you hear the same song and you're like, oh, I remember that wedding. That's the first time I heard it. So like music has you travel to the time or any other time that you listen to it. And so in a way it's like a form of time travel, like your conscious time travel. So like 432 hertz, that tone itself, I believe, is the earliest song we've ever heard as beings, because that's really fundamental. So like when we see it, we, track stars, when they were in the Olympics, they connected them to these machines and they told them to remember, what it was like to run their event. And, their brain fired off the very same things. Their muscles did very similar things. And they relived that energy of that time. So when we hear music that's like ancient, when it's like, referencing all these cultures that we don't belong to now, but we did in the past, that brings back that energy into our present moment. And so therefore we were all light beings. We were all like one creation when we heard that 432 note. And so the more we hear it, the more we get more of that light body memory back in us. Do this straight from source.
Lovely. Very nice.
Yeah, because if those frequencies are truly frequencies of light, and light creates everything, you would have to think the human body and our cells would just rejoice to be in it and to see it and recognize it again.
So this is a very interesting point. I mean, because we talk about it. I'd like to give my first real world example is that, I was on the line with a person who became, overwhelmed by a demon that had possessed her. And I thought, well, what can I do with that? And, this demon was like swearing at me in Sumerian, and as they do.
Oh, wow.
So I just got my guitar out and it was tuned to 432 and I just started playing a nice little C major seventh, just like really gentle little tune. And it got very kind of, uptight about it and then eventually disappeared, having cursed me a little bit more in
wow.
Sumerian. So it really has, a dramatic effect on that which is not true, good, and beautiful, I think.
Sonic saging. Someone coined that.
Ah, that's a good idea. Well, I mean, there we go. Let's just give everybody a quick sonic sage. Help. This is the note we're talking about. I'll give it another one. Ow! So that's 432 cycles, and it's...
My jam.
I'm sorry?
That's my jam.
That's my jam. That's your jam and it's your donut. Go ahead.
That's one cool thing is the album that me and Sheldon are working on has a droning Tibetan singing bowl through every song on the album. It kind of ties everything together. It's going to be amazing.
Ah, so they're modal.
Yeah.
Superb. So, I wonder, do you have do you have a YouTube with some of your music on it in 432, either of you?
Sheldon has a ton. I have a little bit. Most of my stuff was recorded before I knew a 432, but there's a few newer things. My YouTube is called Frozen Hill. Frozen
Hill. Look, I'll check that out, and in the break at the top of the hour, I'll put one of your tunes on so that people can hear what you're talking about. That's absolutely...
Well, you know what? Google one that says Michael Lee Hill and 432, because I do have one that says Tibetan Bowl Experiment, I think is something like that. So cool. But Sheldon's got tons as well, and his music is pretty mind-blowing, as I think you already know.
Maybe we should play both. Oh, they're Frozen Hill. There we go. So
yeah, most of my music's on SoundCloud. SoundCloud.com/Sheldon-Ray-Bird.
Bird is the word.
It certainly is. All right. You two keep talking to the people, and I'll go searching. All right? Be back in a minute.
All right. We're supposed to keep talking. Hey, Sheldon.
Yeah. Well, first of all, hey, I just wanted to say thank you to JP and all the crew and all the listeners. You guys are really dope, and I'm a big fan of everything that's been coming out of this channel, out of this show. So, yeah, I'm really glad to be a part of it.
Right on. Me too, and thank you for having me. It's a privilege and an honor.
Well, yeah, likewise. And I got some tracks here. So you're Golden United States, is that right?
What's that?
Sheldon, is the track's called Angel Bass, Wind Stealing Leaves?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's from my EP that I released last month or something.
There we go. I might play Angel Bass. I like the sound of that. So yeah.
Wait, yeah.
So yeah, well, where were we? Using it in a healing context. Have you built healing chambers, or do you have designs and things that you've downloaded? Because you're talking about that crop circle. There was a lot of information coming from that crop circle, wasn't there, Michael?
Oh, absolutely. Well, first of all, I'm talking about the ES Space Inky, and I'll tell you why this was a very important crop circle to me. Is when I met the Anunnaki in 2008, they told me I was this being named Inky, and once known as the water bearer, and I was like, that made no sense to me whatsoever. I didn't even know who the Anunnaki was at that point. There was no Ancient Aliens on TV, so I was just stumped. And so once I returned home and had communication through telepathy, through meditation, and I think you know what I'm talking about, I asked them, I said, listen, prove it to me. If you are who you say you are, I'm a student of the crop circle subject, and I will notice, put the name Inky into a crop circle. And my second thought was, what a silly request, you know? Could you imagine a crop circle with Inky written in cursive? But then the next thought was, well, you'll figure it out, do something cool, figure it out, you know? Then I got really cocky, and I said, and encode it with something only I would be able to decode. And I said, make it so. And that was the end of it. At first, I thought, too, with the thing of encoding it with something only I would be able to decode, that was a little cocky, but I'm figuring, well, we'll see what happens. Well, nothing happened for 2 years, but in 2011, Sure enough, a crop circle comes into Italy, and anyone can look at this. Just go to YouTube and type in Inky crop circle. And encoded in ASCII binary code into the crop circle was the name Ia space Inky. It's exactly what I asked them. Encode the name Inky, Ia, into a crop circle. That would be my sign, confirmation that they were who they said that they were, and I was who they said I was. But what had happened was I had made a 7-disc set, these crystal disc creations, and I had tracked down the cymatic correct image for every note tuned properly, with the A being tuned to 432. All these were 4 octaves below their middle frequencies. And as Pythagoras knew, to find the lower octave, just because you got a middle A note on your piano tuned properly, there's still lower A notes. And to find those correct frequencies, you just divide by 2. So the lower octave of 432 is 216. Then divide that by 2 is 108. 108 is very interesting because, Tibetan bead prayer bracelets and many other prayers, you'll repeat them 108 times. But then 54 and then 27. The reason this is important is when you put a 27 hertz pulse 4 octaves below 432 through a cymatic device, this is scientific equipment, it creates a perfect 7-pointed star. The Inky crop circle was based on a 7-pointed star. So what had happened is when I created this disc of cymatic images tuned properly of the musical scale, I got to A, and I'm looking at it, I'm going, why does this look so familiar to me? And I didn't even think that just a half hour previously I had made one of those discs, and I put the Inky crop circle in the crystal just as an experiment, just to mess around to see what it looked like. And so I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, why does this look so familiar? And my higher self is like, just relax, sit back, it'll come. Well, nothing came. And after about 10 minutes, I said, well, I don't know. And I kind of just let it go, and I looked over, and the first thing I seen was that Inky crop circle. And I seen a 7-pointed star in the middle of it. And, man, tears just flowed. It was revelation, because what I find out is that 7-pointed star is 432-based information, and it's very strange. Like the 7-pointed star is the Cherokee symbol for their tribe, for their nation. And Bear Cloud said once we understood as a species that the 7-pointed star can reproduce itself mathematically and fractally, both forwards and backwards, mankind would enter a new time of unlimited free energy in a golden age. And, here's the thing, how the 432 subject ties into the Anunnaki and the Native American Indians, and why me and Sheldon are together right now representing the Native American Indian side of this. Is what you find is these mound sites like Cahokia and Newark, Ohio, they're encoding octaves of 432 right into their dimensions and layouts of these mound sites. For instance, one wall will be 1,080 feet long. Another wall will be 2,160 feet long. Well, those are 216 and 108. They're octaves of 432. So you start to realize they've been trying to guide us into this knowledge of what frequencies lead to unlimited free energy for a long time. And I think it should take some fear out of people's minds when they start. There's so much fear going on right now about the Anunnaki and kind of throwing them under the proverbial bus. But if they meant us harm the way people think, why are they been trying to guide mankind into higher realms?
So, the 7 points, I just like that there was a lot of data in that.
Yes.
The 7-pointed star has a relationship to 432, plus
yes.
the Salagi Nation and their star ancestry as well. What do they regard their star ancestry as?
They know they're from the Anunnaki. That's the thing, is me and Sheldon have become friends with many of the elders and many of the grandmothers, and they know they could never share it because they'd be slaughtered not too long ago. But they know they're the mound builder bloodline on this planet is the true Nephilim bloodline, which is the Anunnaki human hybrids here on this planet. And what's going to be revealed in the very near future is we are the Atlanteans. And lots about to be revealed. It's really, really interesting. But when you find out, like, the Babylonian world map that sits in a museum right now is a 7-pointed star. It's pretty mind-blowing.
That's interesting as well. Because I've been a student of the 7 rays for many years, and so 7 features a lot. Obviously, as a musician, there's 7s all over the place, and where we're, so essentially, as a musician, you speak the language of 7, don't you?
As it pertains to 432, yes, and time signature-wise, I'm more fluent sometimes in 7/4 than I am in 4/4, and I don't even realize it's 7/4 until I try to work out a drum part for it or work out, and I go, oh, wait a minute, that's not even 4/4. I'm very comfortable and almost more natural in the 7/4 time signature. Now, I don't know if that's related or not, but you do have to go count to 7 and come back on a 1, so I guess it's related.
Well, yeah, if anybody wants to know what that sounds like, Money by Pink Floyd, this strange ding 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 dong 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 dong, and then you think it's going to go on to the next beat, but it's not. It starts again. So it's a very rolling, it's a beat with momentum, a rhythm with momentum. So, so there's also the issue, it's all frequency, and also tempo is frequency. And one of the things that I've been thinking is tempo the way it's, currently worked, what's it, presto, and, all the musical terms, are they actually related to the 432 scale or the 440 scale? Were they changed by the international standards in the 30s? Can you talk? Can you tell the audience, Michael, a little bit about what happened to 432 in the 30s?
Well, it was actually changed by a Nazi prime minister who was very versed into dark arts, I guess. How else can you say it? And he's the one that brought our standard into 440 hertz, which a hertz is, for people that's not musically, scientifically minded, a hertz is how many times a wave oscillates within 1 second. So 1 second, 1 hertz, you just have one little mountain in there. If there's 10 hertz, you'd have 10 bumps. It's just that easy. It's just how many times the sound is oscillating. Well, just to jump off the deep end, yes, it was changed to 440, but why 440, And I know this sounds strange, but I was with someone who is the Arcturian ambassador on this planet, and he said, Michael, you know how we've been given this idea of dividing whole units or multiplying them by 12, whether, it's 12 inches in a foot, 12 months in a year, 12 hours in a day, 12 apostles, it just goes on and on. So he said, let's take the musical standard that they put us in, 440, and divide it by 12. What you get is a 36.66666666666. What I can tell you is instantly, first of all, he said, look at that. It's pretending to be sacred geometry while still being an imposter, because it's truly the perfect number, which is 432 divided by 12 is a perfect 36, and 3 and 6 is 9, and all those frequencies of 432, when you add them together, they all equal 9. 4 and 3 and 2 is 9. 216 is 9. 108, 9. 54, 9. 27, 9. 36, 36 and 9. And, Tesla said once we understood the magnificence of the 3, the 6, and the 9, we would unlock the keys to the universe, or one of them, something like that. So you took the perfect number and added the mark of the beast to it, really. It's freaking crazy, 666. And if he would have made it 439 or 441, it wouldn't have done it. using cymatics, you can see that frequency is the most cosmically disharmonious frequency. It creates no geometry. It looks like a puddle. But it's important to say, I was talking about this today, Sheldon, that, I talked to Sheldon a lot about this because there's no way around it that some music that changed my life and for the better. It was tuned in 440, and he said, once the intervals are right and it's creating the right geometry, even in 440, it just has less amplitude. It's still there. I would like to hear some Led Zeppelin music actually redone in 432. That would be mind-blowing. But it's not like 440 is just evil and but it's not tuned properly.
It just there's I don't know if it's a sense of OCD, but the way that the numbers all break down when you tune everything to 432, the way that C becomes 256, which is another kind of magical power of two number. Everybody knows it on binary. But there's your note of C, which means that all comes down to 1. So C, the note of the first ray, is the note of 1. So, now what was the other? Oh yeah, G. Cause, I think about these things a lot. G is based on 12, which is the number of carbon. Because it all comes down to elements as well. It's all frequency, isn't it?
Indeed. Fascinating. I didn't know, that's awesome research. We need to just all get together and create some kind of Facebook group where we can share cool 432 info.
Well,
book club.
Sorry, go ahead, Sheldon.
No, I was just saying, we should start a 432 book club, but, not books, just 432.
So, well, actually what we've got, it's 2342 here. Here's the thing. Brad Coates, who's also known as, I think he's Comet in the Revolution chat room. No, Brad did it. He did the whole thing. If you go for wolfspiritradio.com/tune, he's done a whole website with loads and loads of really pretty pictures and lovely diagrams and lots of explanations and all sorts of cool stuff, all about 432. And he subtitled it "Retune the World." So it's kind of, yeah. Yeah is the answer, Michael.
Very cool. 'Tis the season.
So yeah, now how about some healing stories? Have you got some 432 stories? How 432 changed? How did 432 actually change your life, Michael, by the way?
Well, it's actually brought a lot of healing to me. What I started to do is physically take water and put it into my Tibetan singing bowl, which I know it's tuned to 432. By the way, the monks, they don't have any tuning reference. They do it by intuition, and it's perfect on 432. That's interesting, huh? But I'll put a little tiny bit of water in it, and then I get the bowl to sing, and it's just infusing the water with the frequency. And when I get done getting it to sing for a couple of minutes, I'll drink it. Another way that the 432, you see the image even of it, it has energy. And this gentleman that me and Sheldon know, I call him Maple Water Dan, because in the process of making maple syrup, they tap the bottom of the tree and water gets filtered through the whole tree. And in the past, farmers would just use it as wastewater to wash their hands or whatever. But people are finding out now it's one of the purest waters on the planet because it's filtered through the entire tree. And so he just bottles it right out of the tree, and he's started this business, maple water business. And so at a lot of these New Age conferences, he has a place. And so he called me over. He said, "Michael, I got to show you one of these, what your crystal discs are doing to this water." And 4 of us walked over, and he poured about 1 inch of water in a bottom of a plastic cup. He said, I want all of you to take a sip, but don't pay attention to the texture. I mean, don't pay attention to the taste. Pay more attention to the texture of the water, like how thick it is. So we all took a sip, and then he took our cups one by one, and he would use my disc as a coaster, which had the 432 image in it. And he'd keep it there for about 5 seconds, and he'd go, there you go, that's all it takes. And sure enough, all of us sensed a much thicker water. And he said the only thing he had seen that restructured water to the degree that that image is doing was putting water through really high magnetic fields. So think about when you put that image then onto a necklace, which I've done, and those are available on my website, and you have the image right up against your body. We're made of water, you know? I heard we're cucumbers with anxiety. That's a joke. The necklace, the 432 necklace, I've seen Sheldon, every time he'd take a drink of water, he would take that necklace and put his glass of water on it. It restructures water. So there's a lot of healing modalities that can happen by starting to use these frequencies. And Sheldon, you had an invention with what do you call it? Perpetual motion, creating frequency to clean environmental areas, large areas.
What are you talking about?
You were telling me about an invention you had that was like perpetual motion, like a drum, and it would, like a perpetual motion singing bowl. Yeah. You should share that. That's a great thing. It's coming down the pike, you know?
Yeah. So because of that reason, I'll be kind of vague about it, but it's pretty much like wind chimes on a stand, and there's this rotation involved with magnets or anti-magnets. I'm not really sure yet, but pretty much what it does is by itself, like you don't need to plug it in anywhere, just because of gravity and because of magnets or something. It rotates by itself. You don't have to move it too much. And this creates this tone. It's 432 hertz or 528, depending on which one I tune it to. And, the plan is like you could put it in a forest that has like, healing to be done, and it'll encourage the forest to heal faster. You could put it on a raft on, dirty waters, and it just encourage the water to heal. And, you could just put this in an office or something. It's still an idea, still working it out, but yeah.
I love the idea. And all the musicians retuned properly and playing music live in 432 and healing devices, and it's exciting to me.
Well, I have to say, all the compositions that I've used as theme tunes on Wolf Spirit Radio, that I've made myself have been in 432 because it's so easy to tune Reason to do so.
Perfect.
And so everybody gets a good burst of 432 when they hear things on Wolf Spirit. And I think, I hope that it literally sets the tone. Because that's we're really into the healing aspect of things. We're not here to be revolutionary, but evolutionary, I think.
Perfect.
So yes, so you got all these. There's all these things that you could talk about, but so tell me a little bit more now. See, because we don't really know. There's been all this talk, like, who are the Anunnaki? Now, in fact, if I remember correctly, that was Kerry Cassidy's first kind of quest. Who are the Anunnaki? This is when she first started Project Camelot. And we've heard about Nephilim. We've heard about hybrids and giants. How does everything relate, Michael?
Well, really it just goes back to there's another planet in our solar system, and this reality was released to the mass media back in January of 2016. They said Planet X has been found. They know it's there because of other orbit anomalies of other planets, and they know it's there now, and it was released to the public. This planet, which has been called Planet X or Nibiru, but I can tell you, they've told me the name of their planet is the Sa'amai, which is like a Sumerian word. And Sa'amai, the people of the Sa'amai are known as the Sa'am, and then translated to Western culture, it would be Sam. But we'll call it Nibiru for now, because that's our word for their planet. And Nibiru comes through our part of the solar system every 3,600 years. And it orbits a dark star that our scientists are now finding every solar system is a binary star system. Sometimes one star will go dark, turn into a black hole or whatever, a supernova. But the mass is still there. So this planet that would orbit that other binary star system, it still orbits it. But it only comes back through our part of the solar system every 3,600 years. Well, this is the ones that we now know as the ancient aliens or the Anunnaki. They're the inhabitants of that planet. So part of their own evolutionary upbringing, they started destroying their ozone, and kind of like we've done. Plus, they needed gold because they use it in many different ways, and none of it was currency, by the way. It was, first of all, they found out they call it monoatomic gold, where they would powderize it. And because gold is such an electricity great conductor, that they inhale it, and it makes their DNA fire on all cylinders, and it really helped them have prolonged long life. But they also powderize it and put it up into their atmosphere to shield the planet from solar radiation as the planet came through our solar system. So sooner or later, they noticed that this planet within our solar system had huge gold deposits. So they came here to mine gold and had mining operations, from what I understand, 400,000 years prior to when Homo sapien first set foot on this planet. They were here first, so it's actually kind of an interesting question. Should we really be calling them aliens? But we were indigenous. That's a whole other story. But, so man, there's so much more to the story. I could, go on for hours, but, you know, who the Anunnaki are a race of extraterrestrials. They were never gods. As a matter of fact, you know, the whole, man, I don't want to call them cast of characters. It sounds horrible, but, you know, the family members of the Anunnaki who kind of tell the story of coming to Earth and was, kind of made famous by Zecharia Sitchin and other translators, which I want to say a lot of people have been coming down on Zecharia Sitchin. I'm finding out all the other people that are not Sitchin are coming up with the exact same translations. So I don't know where all this Zecharia Sitchin hatred is coming from, but it's not warranted. Anyhow, Anu was the king of that world, and he had his firstborn son. His name was Ea, and why this is important is Anu's spouse was not Anunnaki. She was Pleiadian. And so there's brand new blood that came through Anunnaki family tree. So a lot of people still to this day think the Anunnaki are one bloodline. They don't realize there's absolutely two separate bloodlines that flow through the Anunnaki family tree, and that is the side of Ea, which is half Pleiadian and half Syrian, or Anunnaki. But then later on down the timeline, Anu stopped that relationship with the Pleiadian queen, who was Ea's mother, and took on an Anunnaki wife. And they had a son who was named or known as Yahweh, or even further back there to Samaria, it would have been Enlil. And as the story goes, Enlil ended up getting the throne over his older brother, Ea, because he was a pureblood. And in their own succession of kingship law through the Anunnaki, a pureblood got the throne over a half-blood. So Enki did not get the throne at that point in time. So in a real quick nutshell, that's who the Anunnaki are, why that they were here, and eventually, if we keep going in the story, it tells about the creation of mankind and their role in it, but it's a lot.
Yeah, and I think most people know this scenario. But I'm interested. So, the Pleiadian bloodline, was from what star system and what planet? Do you know?
Pleiades. Yeah. Seven Sisters, what you find out in the Anunnaki story even, it's the embryo that was genetically modified to become Homo sapien was actually taken in by 7 Anunnaki females, and they took those embryos to term and birthed the first 7 of mankind. So the 7 Sisters are the Pleiades, and it's totally tied into this. And you find out that Pleiades does mean it gets into different names of Inky, but pretty much Pleiades means those of Inky's bloodline, pretty much. They have been known as the wing makers. Sheldon is an expert on this whole subject because he's actually more of a contactee with the Pleiadian side. I'm more of a contactee with the Anunnaki and Pleiadian side, but I'm learning much of the Pleiadian culture through Sheldon himself because of his contact and his wisdom.
Well, why not at the top of this hour, which is now, let's play. And I love the sound. I love the sound of this, the title of this track. So let's see how it sounds. Let's play Angel Bass by Sheldon Bird.
Perfect.
Angel Bass there by Sheldon Bird. Cool stuff, Sheldon. Very nice. And that was in 432.
Thank you. Yes, that was 432. I'm not sure if I hit the A note. I forgot what key that's in, but yeah, everything's tuned to the right intervals.
Fabulousness. And, yeah, so do you want to tell us a little bit about your latest, album and then we move on?
My link to what?
Is this your latest release, Soul Traveler?
Oh, yes. Yeah, this is my latest EP. It's a compilation of songs that I've just been making on my downtime, but that means it's my therapy, and so it's healing, and I just wanted to share with people. It's 7 tracks. There's 7 again, 7 tracks. They're all tuned to 432, and they each represent a different time of the day.
How do people get hold of it? How can people buy it from you so you can live to eat a bread sandwich?
Well, I'm still figuring that out because there's like copyright issues. I used some samples that, I didn't even really think about legal stuff. So I need to figure that out. I have some friends who know how to do that.
Oh, but, right. In that case, give it away and ask for donations.
Yeah, on my Facebook, facebook.com/sheldon.bird.7777. That's my page, and you could message me, and I can help you out because I'm still getting all my stuff situated. My computer recently got hit, and I'm not able to use my internet right now, so still figuring that out.
Yeah, we've all been a bit hit recently. As I was trying to tell everybody I've been hit like 3 times today, and the whole station has been taken out twice this week. So we must be doing some good. I mean, you can only imagine that they're, and having said that, the connection to the server in tab 6 has failed. All right, okay, retry now.
No.
That's the worst thing I see in the middle of a show. That little message, the connection to that server is failed. Anyway, that was a small temporary blip in that. So, welcome back to Ever Beyond, and here we are with Michael Lee Hill and Sheldon Ray Bird, and we're discussing 432 frequencies, healing, the Anunnaki, humans, Tell me, Michael, about the creation of humans. It was to help doing the mining operation, right?
Indeed. But, I guess the biggest misconception is this idea that they're marauding, sex-crazed teenager, slave race-making people, because that's not what happened at all.
Biker gang kind of thing.
Actually, for Anunnaki, the ones that came here to mine the gold before mankind ever set foot on the planet, they were called the Anunnaki heroes, because it's this idea of, I don't even know what the term is, but it's Einstein's twins paradox, where, you got two twins, one twin gets in his spaceship and he travels near the speed of light for 5 years. He comes back, gets back to Earth, and he is going to expect his brother to be 10 years older. What he finds is his brother died 500 years ago. And they said, as weird as this sounds to us, it's been proven with today's science of having two atomic clocks, one aboard a airplane or a jet and one stationary on the surface. And just because of the slight speed difference of the jet to the ground-based one, when it lands, it'll be a few milliseconds off on their atomic clocks. This whole idea of, because here's the idea with the twins paradox. Now take it a step further and imagine each twin, one in his rocket ship and one stationary on the planet, and they're both wearing wristwatches. Each wristwatch is still clicking 1 second equals 1 second. In their own time frame, there isn't a problem until they try to re-enter each other's time frames. In the same way, this whole idea of time being malleable was brought up in Matthew McConaughey's new movie, Interstellar, like where they said if we go down to the surface of that planet, 1 month down there is going to equal 1 year up on the surface, so we got to hurry up and get things done. Well, in the same way, if you think about now the fact through Einstein that the faster you travel through the ether, your perception of time truly does change. And a matter of fact, the NSA people that I became to know, they said that there is such thing as stargates, and if you were to step through a stargate at Pine Gap, their secret base in Australia, and instantly walk through that stargate and be on Mars, if you got out a walkie-talkie and wanted to communicate back to the Earth, you'd be talking to 1950s Earth right now, because planets have different orbital, boy, that's hard to say right now, orbital speeds through the ether. So time is experienced differently on every planet that you go to. Mind-blowing, isn't it? But because of this, when the Anunnaki came here, they were experiencing their loved ones aging at a different rate of time than they were when they went back to the planet. And this started to cause a lot of problems because they started to view coming here to mine the gold as a death sentence. And there was about to be civil war break out amongst their own kind, all revolving around their mining operations here on the planet. And at the last moment, before the king Anu released the troops to come here and take out the heroes, it was Inky, who came up with this idea and said, listen, maybe we can stop this civil war, and there's not a life form on this planet right now, which, everything goes through evolutionary cycles. And from what I understand, the Pleiadian had an upcoming life form that will evolve to be known as the Wingmakers. But at that point, it was still at right before conscious awareness primate stage of its evolutionary state that it was in. And as much as you may love a chimpanzee, go and see if you can get a chimpanzee to help you in your mining operations. So Inky said, maybe we can jumpstart its evolutionary phase by intertwining our own genetics and create some, not only help them along on their evolutionary journey and be here to guide them, but we can avert civil war. And that's why Homo sapien was created. And it's interesting because in the Sumerian telling of it, we were brought into what they called the Eden. Well, that sounds familiar. And they said, truly, we weren't slave labor. We were more like pampered pets. And that there was no homeless and no starvation. And we lived in peace and harmony with the Anunnaki back in the days of Sumeria. And it wasn't until the flood happened 27,000 years ago that everything took away, like a left turn in the story. And, you know, because that deals with the deluge and this pole shift that happened. And it wasn't created by the Anunnaki. It's a process that happens many times on this planet. It'll happen again in the future. The crust slips. It's just part of this planet's cyclical evolution that it goes through. And
I think also at that point is that there were things that happened to this solar system. You know, it's like you can't, as you say, you can't just blame the Anunnaki. And indeed, you might be able to blame the Pleiadians because of the destruction of Maldek, which was, you know, in these terms, quite a long time before that. You know, a very long time. And that was the creation of the asteroid belt and the deluge and, you know, the water that is hanging around in the solar system that makes this thing, that makes this place quite edgy to be on.
Yeah, from what I understand, what had happened was the Anunnaki scientists realized that the crust was about to slip. And as this whole story unfolds, it was Enlil who had the throne, and he didn't look favorably upon the experiment of Homo sapien anyhow, and he never thought that mankind would evolve to the point of reclaiming their I am and stepping up in their own sovereignty and not give their power away to illusionary outside sources. And so he said, well, it must be God's will. This isn't our doing, you know. The crust is going to slip, let them perish. And again, this is a misconception because I've heard a lot of researchers say that they feel the Anunnaki caused the flood. And everything I know, that's not the case. This is a cyclical thing. Like I said, happened many times in the past, and it will happen again in the future. But Enki was tasked with going out to the ocean by his brother and said, well, if they're going to perish anyhow, and it's God's will, why sustain any energy into food sustenance for them? Why don't we take the fish and make sure it gets back to Nibiru? And so he went out to do that, and he couldn't find himself to do it. He looked at mankind as family, and it was his own genetics and own DNA that was through the human genome now. So instead of doing what his brother said, which was disobeying the council, by the way, this will be important in the future. There's no doubt that, you know, it was the decision to let mankind perish and not to let mankind know, and why create panic, but start removing the food sustenance. That was the plan. Enki totally did the opposite, didn't remove the fish, and went to his mother's side instead. Went to the Pleiadians and said, isn't there anything that can be done? My race is going to let this beautiful race that has so much potential just perish. And so they started think tanking this, and the first idea was the idea of the Ark. And it was said that this representative, his name was Galzu, he was of the Pleiadians, and he was considered an ambassador of all that is. And I think this is important because it shows the Anunnaki knew that they were not the top of the galactic totem pole of cosmic intelligence, you know. When Galzu came, Anu, Enlil, and Enki sat their asses down and listened to his counsel and, you know, looked forward to it and honored it. So Galzu brings Enki. This is all on the clay tablets, by the way. He brings Enki the dimensions and the layout to build the Ark. It was a DNA library, you know. But they could use their advanced Anunnaki technology-based remote viewing, imagine that, to look into the future. And they've seen, we were so pampered back then in Eden. We were living a totally Edenic lifestyle. Everything was taken care of for us. But they've seen that we wouldn't have evolved quickly enough to process our collective shadow work in time by the end of this grand cycle of the Mayan calendar. Because they said what we truly don't understand is thoughts create reality, and the magnetic field of this earth is like the glue of the time span between the thought and the manifestation of the thought. And the lower the magnetic field of the planet, the less of a time between when you think something and it manifests. So if you haven't done your collective shadow work, and there's a lot of darkness and fear and doubt and bullshit in your belief system, and you come into a time where your thoughts are manifesting instantly and you don't have any time to change your mind, if you haven't done your spiritual homework, it's not going to end real well. And for all intent purposes, mankind was not going to be able to go through its collective shadow work, and we would have self-imploded and destroyed ourselves with nuclear weapons. So the elders from the Pleiadian side, so why do this experiment then of yours, Inky, for the Ark if they're not gonna make it anyhow? So they think tanked it again. They said, what if we made mankind experience its own mental energy in an accelerated fashion, both light and dark, unbiasedly? Whatever you put out, you get back magnified, multifold. And they said, well, shit, that's never even been tried. That's really interesting, but there's no way we're going to allow you to do that to an upcoming race and make them experience their own mental energy in hopes, because they understand thoughts have an electromagnetic reality, and that, well, fear-based thought forms have a waveform. There's truly its frequency. And it's energy, and energy can't be created or destroyed. So how do you transmute a negative thought form? Well, you live it, and it comes up in your own personal reality. And if you can choose love over fear, it transmutes those energies. So they kind of broke off into two camps. One would look at the mass consciousness and see if someone vibrated fear. Then they'd come in and make sure you got a chance to experience your own dark thought form in hopes you'll change it. It's truly in service to mankind, but you can see if you're a human that has a lot of fear and doubt, and you've chosen to misuse your power over your fellow brother and sister, and you come before a multidimensional being whose spiritual role it is to make you experience your own mental energy, you're going to go demon, because this being is making you experience all your darker shit. But I call them team bad cop, and they're real, Well, not anymore. That's a whole other subject. But things have changed. But there's a light side. There's a team good cop, and they come, and their job was to whisper in our ears keys of things that would turn us into the higher realms of truth of light and sound, and how physical creation works, and mathematics and music. And so these two sides for a very long time have been amplifying human mental energy. And they told me, though, this whole experiment ended the second we entered the Age of Aquarius. We would have either made it or we wouldn't have. And they did tell me we have made it, and in their own words, we have earned the right to be treated as equals. So, boy, that was a ramble.
That was fantastic. That was absolutely brilliant. Because...
But it gets into the creation of the Nephilim.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what happened is they agreed. Inky's side said, okay, we will incarnate as human and walk a mile in their moccasins and try to guide this experiment from the inside, so to speak. But when they tried to incarnate into the human vessel, they spontaneously combusted. The human vessel wasn't capable of holding their energetic level. So they had to create an offshoot of the human genome that had more chi or life force. And that became what's known as the Nephilim now, and that is my bloodline. And the Native American Indians, it runs through. It's called haplogroup X2A, and just Google it. It's fact, It's pretty crazy what's about to be revealed to the world. I'm excited.
So, can you give us a preview of that crazy stuff? Because we like the crazy stuff here, because This is the, beyond the cutting edge. We're separating the molecules at that level. On the beyond before the edge is even there.
Yeah, to me, it is disclosure because, I was pulled into a meeting by a gentleman from the NSA named A.R. Borden. They wanted to discuss with me. There's some people from the elite. I don't even know who they were, but they wanted to discuss how first contact can unfold. And there was a lot of worry about fundamentalist religion on the planet and how they would respond, and a lot of worry. And I said, I think, just regardless, let's start by announcing the reality of this intelligence in Earth's past first. Let's talk about who built the pyramids. Let's talk about there's pyramids under the sand, hundreds of them that have not been revealed yet. They're still under the sand. The same way that the Sphinx, the only thing sticking up above the sand in the early 1900s was its head. The rest of it needed to be excavated to see, there's a body under there. Well, they know there's pristine pyramids under the sand that haven't had those outer casings ripped off the way we did to the ones in Egypt to use as other temples. We've never, as a human race, seen a pyramid in its pristine state with an outside coating of granite marble that was to the tolerance of a mirror, and from miles away it would reflect sunlight like a mirror, and you could see it from that far away. There's no doubt. And Carmen Bolter, who is the lady who did the pyramid code, she knows using new ground-penetrating radar, they found huge complexes under the labyrinth site in Egypt, and 60 feet below the sand, there's a complex that's sprawls over acres, and she said some of the bigger rooms are the size of grocery stores, and some of the smaller rooms are the size of Olympic swimming pools. She said just to walk the corridors or the hallways that connect one room to another, if you just took the hallways out and put them end to end, it would be over 1.5 miles of hallway you would have to walk. But they know that these rooms are filled with nothing but gold and artifacts. But at 110 feet, there's a whole other complex, and it mirrors the 60-foot level, but there's no hallway that connects the 60-foot level to the 110-foot level. And she said they've come to, through their research, it was never above ground. It was created underground. And that's about to be revealed to the planet as we speak as well. So someone's going to have a big explanation to explain here, because it's not what we've been taught in our history books. That should alleviate a lot of the fear, because obviously if they meant us harm, we wouldn't be talking right now. But it does flip full circle to their return and first contact and this planet becoming a galactic society, which we're right on the verge of. And it'll happen through the Native American Indians being, for the world to acknowledge the civil rights issues that's been implemented against the Native American Indians, who are the true Nephilim bloodline. You know, it's fucking crazy. Excuse my language. I'm sorry. Okay. It all ties together with the return of the Anunnaki, meeting many extraterrestrial races, the revealing of Earth's true hidden history, and it's combining who the Anunnaki are to humanity. And they said, from here forward, we're moving into the next golden age. And the Age of Aquarius, who are the true Nephilim bloodline, you know, it's fucking crazy. Excuse my language, I'm sorry. Okay. Dude, I'm not talking. It all ties together with the return of the Anunnaki, meeting many extraterrestrial races. Dude, that was crazy. Are you there?
Sorry, I got a radio loop there. That was a bit strange.
Dude, that was really crazy. All of a sudden I heard my own voice. I was like, no, I've slipped dimensions.
Yeah, I think maybe we did a bit of a time shift there, but, no, I come all over peculiar. So meanwhile, what was the last thing you were saying?
Just how it ties into the Native American Indians, and you know what all this is? It's the true unfolding of the Native American rainbow warrior prophecy. That's truly what it is, that there'll be a walk of people who reveal themselves, who through their own actions have shown that they're more interested in mankind than their own wallets. And these people will come from all walks of life and all races, and they'll be known. And I found out what the rainbow status is one of the grandmothers pulled me aside and she said, "You are the rainbow we've been waiting for." And she said the chakras, when they're cleared and balanced, they emit the colors of the rainbow, from red in the root to purple and in the crown. And that to them, those that have the sight to see energy that way, that those humans, they're called the whirling rainbow. It's kind of funny because I do believe it's the coat of many colors as well for the Mormon religion, or it's someone that's ignited their Merkaba field. It's one and the same, but
also the halo
rainbow,
of the saints.
What's that?
The halo of the saints. In medieval paintings, saints are depicted with this thing around them, but that's what you're talking about. It's the auric field that is visible and makes people, as you say, rainbow. I've always, whenever I see somebody who's got maybe even wearing rainbow stripy socks, or just have a little rainbow on them. I always, have a feeling of affinity towards them. It feels natural,
So the Rainbow Warrior prophecy, you can look at it as a whole, island and then a continent of individuals who have become clean vessels and cleared their chakras and are operating in new frequencies of higher vibration of love. And there's more of us every day, and that we will come and make this planet green again. And all the nonsense that we're witnessing right now will be revealed, and nothing can be healed until it's revealed. And boy, we're getting a big lesson on I don't want to get political, so we'll leave it at that. But, it's truly, the Indian nations are going to be given back their land. And it's coming soon, and Nazara and all this, I believe, will be implemented through the Native American Indian culture and will be led into a new reality, come through the Native American Indians and the Mound Builder culture, and it'll all be revealed exactly who they are.
This is something I've always felt that, and it's one of these things. I mean, looking at Standing Rock, what's going on right now, what's been going on in the last few months, it's come to the point. I mean, it's come to the nub. This is the diamond pointing against the steel, and the moment is kind of ripe, as it were, for the revealing of who is actually who and what they're trying to do.
Indeed.
And it's going to be a bit awkward when, the people who follow their wallets will realize what's going on and who they've been actually dealing with.
Good for them. People, I am going to get political. I was just saying earlier, the people that supported Trump, very soon they're going to have no other choice to realize they drank the Kool-Aid. And Trump Kool-Aid. I think that there's Trump Kool-Aid going around, by the way. And it'll be a great learning lesson for people. They'll have nowhere to go other than go, you know what, I bought that. You know what, I believed everything that they told me to believe. And when you realize you're wrong, maybe some great growth can come from that.
Yeah.
Not the easy way. I'd rather take a different path.
Well, he seemed all right at the time. But look, moving on from it, I mean, we all have to realize we've just kind of schlepped ourselves out of the burning building and we're catching our breath, in terms of leaving the ever spinning roundabout of, everyday life. Let's put it that way. The matrix life. As it seems to be spinning faster and faster, out of control, these roundabouts when you're a kid. there became a point when it was going fast enough that it would hurt more to come off than it would be to stay on. And that seems to be the way the planet is evolving that way. That those who are clinging on tight to the matrix life, will be getting further and further away from our reality.
Sheldon can speak on this, but the Native American Indian culture have something called Heyoka, which is the clown. It's like backwards energy. And it seems like everything's backwards right now. Everything is not what it seems. But it's all for the grand revealing of what truly is. And I've heard it's going to be the biggest surprise ending for humanity of the light that you can possibly imagine. Because there's way more to it.
There's more to it, but what has already been said in terms of this moment right now?
We are now officially in the Age of Aquarius, that it was not 2012, it was 2016. Because if their whole time system being 43,200 seconds in 12 hours, their whole system of timekeeping and calendars are based on 432 mathematics. All 432 frequencies, as we said, equal up to 9. 4 and 3 and 2 is 9. 2 and 1, 6 is 9. 108, 9. 54, 9. 27, 9. So, 2012, it equals up to a 5. The end of the calendar could not have been December 21st, 2012. The true ending of the Mayan calendar in the entry into the Age of Aquarius was December 21st, 2016, because 2 and 1 is 6 equals 9, and then it's the ending of their own system of timekeeping. So we have just crossed the border into the next golden age, and it's interesting, I will add, that the Age of Aquarius, Enki was always depicted back in Sumeria as having water erupting from his shoulders or carrying, people ask why they're carrying these purses or bags. It's not, it's a pitcher of water. It's a water bearer. And so if you think about the guy holding a bucket of water, it's Aquarius. It's the prototype. Enki is the prototype of the Age of Aquarius, the actual symbol of the astrological symbol of Aquarius. So what we're saying is the Age of Aquarius equals Age of Enki. And we just crossed into it very recently. So I think that's why we're seeing a huge shakeup of moving from reality A to reality B. And I'm to the point now, like people that don't like it, I say just pull them kicking and screaming into the golden age. Sooner or later they're going to go, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't suck.
Exactly. It's not the reality of what you fear is never as bad as the fear of, it never hurts as much as you fear it's going to hurt. It's, well, sometimes it does. Sometimes it hurts more. But I mean, in general, it's never as bad as you fear it to be. And I thoroughly agree. The events of last year. Now, if you look at the predicted events of 2012 and then the events of 2016, I think you're spot on there, Michael. Because, things went very awry. I mean, who'd have thought clowns? I mean, come on.
Indeed.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, those clowns, they, remember last year too, around, fall, there was all those creepy clowns pulling people into the woods here in the United States. And all of a sudden they just disappeared. No one even asked. They're like, hey, what happened to the freaking clowns that were like all over the United States wreaking havoc? That's weird to me, but whole other story. Heyoka, right?
Ah. Trickster energy. Interesting.
Tricksters, yes. Yeah. What people don't know, though, trickster is both light and dark, always. It's, so, just be aware, I guess.
Well, that's the Harlequin as well, isn't it? The jester, the Harlequin has like two-tone clothing to denote that they're, because you could say something funny that was really bad. You could say something funny that was really good. It's the luck of the draw, isn't it?
Well, let me tell you, we ended up at a Native American Indian Sundance. That's actually where I met Sheldon. And on the third day of the Sundance, it's called Backwards Day. It's when the clowns actually come in the Heyoka. And so let's just say a lot went down that day, and a lot of tests from higher level to see if people are clean vessels, and the light won. So we're all back at the campsite, and there's some of, I guess, Team Bad Cop Sweat Lodge was going to start, and they sent a messenger down to our campsite that we were being very disrespectful, and could we please keep it down? And now, mind you, this is Backwards Day, because people, they taught this into the culture to say everything backwards. Hey, I hope you have a really horrible day. Truly, it gets into the time cycles of how physical creation are manifested, and that day is backwards. That's truly what it means, but that's way deeper. But so they send this messenger down. He tells us we're being very disrespectful, and could we please keep it down, that they're getting ready to do ceremony. And the youngest grandmother of the Indian tribes that was there, she looks at him and says, well, with the utmost disrespect, would you please go back and tell them it's only going to get louder? That was the best line I've ever heard, I think, in my life. I was like, yes. True story.
True story.
Sheldon, were you there during that time?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, we were around the fire.
Yes, indeed. Funny stuff. You can't make that up.
So you met at a Sundance, and what was the was there a formal, or was it accidental? Did you bump into each other? Did you how was the meeting?
No.
By the way, how'd you meet him?
We met at that Star Knowledge conference he was talking about, but it gets way deeper than that. I'll let you talk about that, Sheldon. I need to drink some water.
Yeah, come on, Sheldon. Step forward.
Yeah. So I was invited to speak at this conference. It was the first time I ever did anything like that. I just stood up on stage and started talking, and it all worked out. And afterwards, I was going with Chief. He was going to go get lunch, and I was going to go with him. And then Michael was sitting by the door next to all of his bling, all of his 432 items and all that. And he was like, you should have a talk, sit down and have a talk with him. He's experienced the wing makers that you talked about. In my presentation, I talked about the wing makers a bit and my experience with them. And so we just kind of talked. We kind of saw each other. And then we both ended up at that Sundance that was after the conference, after everything was done. Not everyone from the conference ended up there, but we showed up. And we just ended up hanging out. We shared a peace pipe, and we became really good friends after that. And we had a really trippy time. Like, it was dreamlike. It was like a fairy tale. Definitely telling my grandkids about it.
Yeah, things got very multidimensional, which now I'm finding out that's kind of what happens. So it makes sense, but it was wonderful. I felt like I found a long lost brother, and we just hit it off, and I never laughed so hard in my life. Still been laughing.
That's great, and it's lovely. It's a good rapport you have with each other. Do you jam musically? Who plays what? Oh
yeah, Sheldon is a mind-blowing musician, and so some of his songs, I've been playing with him and actually learning some of his songs from him. Like, he's written a song called Wingmaker, and I was very honored he's given me permission to do it on my own. And but it'll be on the album as well with him singing. It's such a beautiful song. We've jammed a lot. Sheldon's come up, and I just moved, but at my old place, I was living with a buddy. His name's Al. Yo, Al, if he listens to this. Sheldon came up and stayed with us for what, a week, Sheldon?
Yeah, or 8 days.
8 days. Yeah, and it's just been, we've got to jam a lot and work on music, and now it's coming to fruition just now because I'm getting settled into my new place and whatnot. But yeah, we've jammed together. Sheldon's mind blowing, and it's a cool combo.
Oh, thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah, you're pretty good at leads.
Give it my best.
So it's really interesting. I mean, there's so many different. Right? Yes. Bling. Michael.
Anunnaki bling.
Tell us about the bling. Come on.
Well, it's the crystal discs, and I'm producing about 3 or 4 right now, and they're all very specific, and most of them have my 432 image of my guitar recorded by these scientists, Cymatics they're called. But beyond that, I have created these dog tags that have 2 sides to them. One is the 432 image, and it's got the human chakra color scheme from red on the outside to purple on the inside. But when you flip it over, it's the same image, but it's got the reversed chakra scheme, because in Native American Indian culture believe that once one has went through ascension, your chakras reverse. And so instead of red being in your root, your root becomes purple. So it has 2 different versions of the image, and that's, so many people are asking me for a version they can wear. But beyond that, I'm involved in bringing out a new line of power jewelry. Sheldon, the galactic pendant you wore of mine, that group of good folks, I want to be announcing this soon, but whole line of stuff, and I'm going to become a distributor, and I'm designing some of the jewelry. And that just happened today, by the way. I'm very excited. I'm going to be releasing the Pleiadian peace symbol jewelry piece, which is actually the peace symbol flown in the proper direction. This guy's a master jeweler, so he's going to be, I'll have the original, and then the original will be used to make the mold, and we're going to release the peace symbol in its proper orientation.
So, yeah, I saw this on your Facebook page. It's it's as we would, because we know that what we call the CND symbol, the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament, used this rune upside down. So the expression that you're putting out there is the proper way up of the rune, which in Nordic means what was it?
Well, how this all came about
tell us
was,
about it.
Chief Golden Light Eagle had communicated to me. He said, if the ones bringing the peace movement back in the 60s, they didn't know any better, they flew the symbol upside down. If they would have had it in its proper orientation, it would have changed this world, is what he said. And so I've been thinking about this. I'm like, well, it needs to happen. You know what I mean? This doesn't seem like that difficult of a thing to bring back the peace symbol flown in its proper orientation. It's supposed to be a tree. It's the tree of life, and it should be pointing up and not down. So, just to make a long story short, I'm coming out with a line of jewelry of this jewelry is what the Anunnaki was wearing back in the day. People ask, why were they wearing wristwatches? They're not wristwatches. There's these energy devices, like, for instance, the one I'm wearing right now. If I take a voltmeter and I take the positive and negative probes and I see how much electricity my body's holding in capacitance, I was holding about a half a volt for my whole body. Anyone can test this, by the way, with a voltmeter. But then I took the positive probe and the negative probe and put them under my thumb as I was holding this device. And on this particular model, I went to 1.6 volts. So truly, that's 1.1 volts of unlimited free energy coming from somewhere, and it's amplifying my own chi and my own prana or life force within my body almost 3 times as much as it was normally. And that's what the Anunnaki are wearing on their wrists, and they wear them as a necklace. And David Sarita, he's a famous fellow. He's been on everything. He's the guy that did the case for NASA UFOs. He was inspired through contact with the Anunnaki. It was like a vision that he had, and he was shown the devices, and he came up with a frequency attunement treatment where he's been inspired to know what frequencies to infuse stone and material, and it activates it, so to speak. But that's what this technology is, and I have the necklace right now. There's a bracelet, and that's being made for me right now. I'm really excited about that. And then the actual peace symbol, and he's got a device that I have. It's called the Intrinity, and I don't even know what he was enthralled with the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and he said as he was reading it, he was downloaded this shape that it's kind of like a female version of the Merkaba, whereas all straight lines are male energy. Imagine a total female curved Merkaba. And this device is really cool. This sculpture, really, he's this master jeweler, and he makes the most beautiful jewelry anyhow, but it's not just jewelry. This thing, this Intrinity, when you spin it, like you're going to spin a top or a marble, and you look through it, it creates a Merkaba, Star of David, pyramid up, pyramid down. Cool stuff. So, yeah, got lots of good stuff coming down the pike. The album with Sheldon, everything's connected.
Everything's connected. Is it all kind of just going to launch and explode in one go? Is this the event?
That's cool.
Is it time to go with the event, Michael?
I don't know. You know what? I'm just following my bliss and doing what brings joy into my gizzard.
That's a very good approach, actually, rather than plan everything, because you know what happens when you plan stuff. Ha ha ha.
It doesn't go real well. I've learned
more and
to just
more,
let go. Miracles have happened, and it would have never happened if I was the one trying to steer the boat.
More and more, I think, random events drive my life rather than planned events.
Me and Sheldon were talking about this. It seems like when you're really on the path, you kind of like become the Forrest Gump of all this.
Yeah, kind of a bewildered observer in the life in a life of otherwise apparent chaos that's just rolls and sits into place, and it's like somebody riding a unicycle, juggling and throwing things and catching things from other people. I mean, it's just like, it's insane. Just sitting here with 5 screens and every screen is doing something and trying to talk to me. It's quite a trip.
Good stuff.
So, with 15 minutes to go, where do we go? I would love to be able to play with my friends with 432. However, my friends play harmonicas. My friends play flutes and pipes, because I'm in Scotland, right? Well, everybody's got their little tin whistle, which of course is bloody impossible to play with, because I'm not going to retune this.
Sound real good, is it?
Yeah, so.
Well, you can tell them Hofner does make harmonicas now that are tuned to 432. They're going to have to buy a brand new harmonica. That's pretty much all there is to it. But flute players, it's possible. I can tell you, like I asked Chief Colin Light Eagle, I said, where are the Native American Indians flutes tuned to? And he said, some of them are 432. He said, a lot of them are 444. He said, that's the Arcturian frequency. And I can tell you, this is really interesting, because he then said, Michael, what you need to do is see how 444 relates to 528 and 432, and you'll get a big puzzle piece here. And I said, thank you, Chief. And I walked away, and I'm thinking, how the hell am I going to do that, right? But then I started thinking about what I learned from that Arcturian ambassador about, dividing 440 by 12 and dividing 432 by 12. And I thought, well, if 36 times 12 is 432, I wonder what 37 times 12 is. And just the first thing I did was just look at that and check it out. It's 444. I went, holy crap. So I kept doing whole numbers. What's 38 times 12? What's 39 times 12? Well, when I got to 444 times 12, it's 528. This is really important because there's this division happening where people seem to think 528 is this golden number, and they're like, all those 432 people don't know what they're talking about. 432 people are going, oh, the 528 people don't know what they're talking about. It's not a competition, man. They're perfectly in harmony and mathematically and fractally overtones with one another, and they're not. So I think that's very important to say. Within those 9 steps of just multiplying whole units, you get these cosmic frequencies of 432, 444, and 528 encoded. It's kind of mind-blowing.
It is. I have a program which I wrote several years ago to derive, if I put in a base frequency, it derives the octaves and all the notes and the frequencies of all the notes. And I would use it for checking sound healing frequency matches. So I just plugged in 528 into it, which gives you the note of C adjusted up 15%. But it also gives you the note of F at 44, 22, 88, 11. That's a nice little one. And then, of course, A is 111, 222, 444, 1776.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's the A in 40, 2 octaves above, that note, is 1776. So that's another interesting number for you Americans, isn't it?
Indeed, yeah. Wouldn't you think? Mind blowing.
So yeah, what else have we got? 58.8. That's not very interesting. Yeah. So it does. So what is the? So you're saying that there's an Arcturian connection here?
That came from Chief Golden Light Eagle himself. He said that 444 is the Arcturian frequency. And, how I'm starting to understand this is, the whole physical creation is 432 based. It is 432 squared is the speed of light. So 432 based frequencies are going to be the only frequencies that are truly components of light. But 528 is like focusing into DNA. It's like, it's refining your focus within the spectrums of light and what you're trying to do. It's not no longer the whole spectrum or, the whole creation of light. You're looking specifically at DNA, and 528 is that. 444, I would love, that'll be the next question I ask Chief Golden Light Eagle. How is, is that the astral realm? Is it, where is the 444 frequency focusing into the whole creation? I don't know. Sheldon, do you know?
Well, like I mentioned, these tones are basically like the earliest memories we could have as light bodies. And so like Arcturians, for example, would probably come from the 444 hertz. And, but other star systems have different resonances too. Like, 432 is something. 420 hertz is another thing. A lot of people are going on about 420, like there's probably a good reason for that.
Oh, that's fun. I didn't know that. That's perfect.
Yeah, so like I want to figure out like what all of these can be. Like what's the Sirian one? What's the Pleiadian one? What's the Lyran one? I want to be able to help people heal from that too.
That's brilliant. Yeah. That's like the kind of meta music of the spheres, the music of the stars. Now, just to throw some more in there, I'm just looking at this little chart here. So C also, as well as 528, is 33 and 66, which is interesting numbers there. And then what
432, 36 times 12 is 432. Mind blowing.
Yeah. So it's just that notch away, as you said. And again, so it's got 33, 44, 55.5, as A. I mean, just very, interesting numbers as I just kind of scan across them. And of course, 666, well, it's 665.24, which is, not that far away, but, the numbers aren't exactly 6666, but, maybe it just veers away from it in the same way that 432 veers away from 440. Anyway, we're about, 8 minutes out. What can people can get these amazing, what do you make them? How do you produce them? Are they made of resin? What's the
What it is quartz crystal glass, which it's glass that has lead in it, and you can tell because it refracts light into its rainbow spectrum. And I get them from a distributor. They're cut, faceted, they're round, but we use a machine to go and buff the outside edge to make it very nice and smooth, and get that whole outer edge of each piece of this crystal glass buffed. And then it's the whole creation of getting the image inside the disc. 2 pieces of the crystal kind of encase a really high quality transparency. Like, these are being made from images that are 3,000 by 3,000 pixels and about 4 megabytes per image. There's a ton of information, and it's very high quality transparencies. And then that is what gets put in between these crystal glass pieces. Like quartz, is in everything. It's dealing with frequency, your watches and computers, everything, because it's a great conductor of frequency. So the idea is that this image is going to bring through 432 frequencies through the image alone, because, like we said, we found out it restructures water. Chico and Light Eagle said the frequency itself will shatter cancer cell walls. But then it's wrapped in a copper wrap that on the outside, and what copper does, it's very conductive. So the whole thing turns into a very powerful, subtle energy device, and people are actually coming up with its uses are probably a million uses of it, and I'm getting people contacting me. Like, I didn't know it would restructure water, but it does. But they are available at my website. It's michaelleehill.net. And since you're in UK, right, I do ship over there. You just got to send me a personal message. And but, yeah, michaelleehill.net.
Excellent. Hang on. So that's 2 pairs of L's there. Excellent. Michael Lee Hill there. Fabulous. Now, how about, like I say, your music? What was the name of your YouTube channel? It's
Frozen Hill. And by the way, that's what brought the History Channel to my door. Somehow the stars lined up, and people will see there's over 4.5 million views, and that's because I've put all my footage of the Anunnaki and their chariots of fire over Lake Erie. And some of it started to go viral, and the next thing I knew, the History Channel was here, and that's a whole nother story. But yeah, Frozen Hill. You can check out my UFO footage, and I have some of my music on there. And yeah, please do.
Sheldon, please.
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel. Just look up Sheldon Bird. That's why I'm on Google Plus too. You can find me there. I'll be making more videos soon explaining different topics. I'll plan on doing video essays and breaking down of music, going more into these topics. So, yeah, just YouTube Sheldon Bird.
Absolutely fabulous. So listen, this has been Ever Beyond with Michael E. Hill and Sheldon Ray Bird. We have been off the planet and landed back quite nicely here on the runway. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Smooth landing.
Thank you.
Please, thank you.
beyond.